Hello everyone, welcome to another ride with Mo Allen. In this ride, I'm riding stage 1 of the Off the MAAP group ride. Large number of riders to start, 389. There's a ride leader in this, which I wasn't aware of. I didn't know how, if at all, that would affect the ride, but essentially my intention is to ride this group ride in quotes, air quotes, as a race. I'm basically racing, so using this as a race, staying with the front for as long as I can. This is an all category, well, I guess all group rides are all category, right? But so this is, you don't know exactly who you're riding up against. With a group this large, I assumed that I wouldn't stay with the front for that long. I assumed there would be some strong riders that were just going to go off the front. Turns out I stayed with the front for a good, I think 20-25 minutes. So longer than I expected. But one thing that I was really proud of in this ride, and you'll see that I am employing it immediately here, is that I drafted really, really well. I've said it before that in Zwift, both power-ups and group dynamics, especially drafting, are sort of lost on me in terms of their actual effect on the way the ride occurs. When I hit a power-up, to me, it's almost as if I didn't even use it. You know, it's not like I don't know if it's just me, if I'm just not connected enough to what's going on, or not understanding or realizing what's actually changing. But in that same way for drafting, I'm aware that there's a bigger draft the further back you are in a pack. However, I don't really understand when it's giving me the best benefit. I don't run the sauce, plug in or add on to see the draft boost, so I'm blind in that way. But it wasn't my intention, but actually once I sort of started out of the pens in the back of the group, I was like, you know what, let me stay here and kind of see how this goes. Part of this is because just yesterday, I think it was yesterday, you'll see my previous video was a race for, I think, stage 2 of the Fresh Out of 24 race series on Zwift, on Going Coastal. And that ride was a really interesting one. I'd encourage you to watch that video and hear me talk about group tactics and mistakes that were made. In fact, I can answer a question that I asked in the narration of that video, which was, did I make the right choice by following this one rider who kept attacking every once in a while? Obviously had steering. They would go off to the right and then put in a 7 watt per kilogram dig. And we were only a group of 8, I believe. It was a very small group. I think it was a group of 8. Maybe a little more than that, but it was a really small group. And so I kept going with them. And I was talking with my coach later, and he said he would have advised just to let that rider go. Either they would have had to have put in an effort to stay off the front like that, and a really big effort. And in that case, they're likely a lot stronger than any of the riders in that group. So it might be a fool's errand to follow them anyway. Or they're going to let up, and even a group as small as, 7 or so would bring them back in due time. It was a flat ride. I forget the actual distance. It wasn't that long, but I think it was probably long enough to bring them back. Anyway, those tactics then, and me not doing the opposite of good group riding, I figured in this one, let me try to stay in the back and kind of see how it goes. So I was nervous the entire time I was back here, because I'm usually never in the back. You'll see me move up to the front a little bit here, at least in the middle, and I think I actually move all the way up towards the front. I've said it before, I like to do these climbs on my own terms and just make sure. So my rider weight is 95 kilograms, so I can get caught out on any little inclines. I was happy to see that this was kind of subdued. Little effort up here to this point. So you'll see me drift back to the back. I'm constantly keeping an eye on the front, just seeing if it's getting strung out, constantly keeping an eye on the wattage in the rider list. One of the things that makes me nervous about being in the back of the group is that it's difficult to see what's occurring in the front. So if there is some kind of push or something like that, it's hard to see. You can see me taking off my sweater there. So I'm in the garage, which is not insulated, and it's incredibly cold in there. Where I live, it's at the time I rode, it was 1:10 p.m. in the afternoon, and I think it was freezing, if not below freezing. So the garage was really, really cold. So I just rode this first 5.5 minutes or so with and warmed up with that sweater on, just to keep some heat in. But it was getting a little hot, so I took it off. Anyway, here I am back in the back of this group. These tactics, so again, me not in the moment realizing what this draft benefit was giving me, at the end you'll see that it definitely paid off. And we can talk about it at the end when we see the average watts per kilogram that I put out for the ride, given the speed and the effort of the riders around me, their watts. I could really see a difference in the way I rode this versus the way I've basically ridden every ride previous to this. So it was a really, really good learning experience. So another thing about the drafting is I would immediately see this, even this little gap between me and the rider in front, you know, a couple rider lengths. I would have worked to close that down a lot sooner than I did in this ride. So I was taking a different tactic in that way as well. I had recently just heard, and I haven't verified this in either of these two cases, but the thing I heard was specific, or at least they said it's specific to the TTT, a team time trial event. And so I don't know if it applies outside of that, but the fact that when you get the notification in Zwift that to close the gap, because there's a gap of 2 or 3 meters or more, that notification doesn't necessarily mean that you're not benefiting from the draft. So that I haven't verified at all. I should and I will, but I was sort of had that in my mind as I was in the back of this group as well. So here we are as we come up this little incline for the second time. I'm moving up more towards the front, anticipating there might be a little more fireworks at the front here. The climb still stayed relatively subdued, but right afterwards you'll see it string out. And so for 22 minutes, I didn't say it either, but this route is the Volcano Climb After Party route on Watopia. So relatively flat until the Volcano KOM at the end. And so for 22 and a half minutes here, I'm at 290 watts average. And I've been with the front, which is longer than I had expected. 16 kilometers into the ride with about 24 left to go. So here you can see it sort of get strung out. I'll be honest that this caught me off guard. I was not paying attention to how quickly this got strung out. And if I had been closer to the front, I would have tried to stay with that front group. But you'll see here that pretty soon, this is where I begin to lose contact. And I had a decision to make here. See how strung out this is. I had a decision to make, which was, am I going to push to try to get back to that front? Or am I going to save something for the Volcano climb at the end? And I decided on the latter, right? So I'm wondering what would have or could have been if I would have pushed to stay in the front there, but I am putting in, you know, some power here to try to at least stay with this group. I was wondering whether or not this group at this power for me would just bring me back to that group up front. At this point, I'm pretty sure that doesn't actually happen. I think that group up front gets away. So I'm just trying to stay around the riders here, not put in too much effort, but just try to stay with this. You can see this little gap right here even forming, and I could have pushed, I definitely could have pushed to try to close that gap, but at this point I was thinking, you know what, I'm just gonna kind of stay within myself. I mean, we're really close at this point, right? But I figured I'm gonna stay within myself. It's likely that there's a lot of riders in that front group that are really strong climbers as opposed to me. Actually, so we do actually come back a little bit here, and then you can see the watts go up, and I think this must be where I lose it here. So this is the point, I think, where I probably could have put in a dig to stay with that group there, and I kind of let them go. So I figured I would, at this point, I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna just try to give it a good effort. Once I get back into a group, I will go back to those draft tactics and try those out again, and then just try to save something for the climb at the end. And so here you can see that elastic has completely snapped on that group in front. So distinct group behind now, 60th place. So 60 riders up ahead. Again, I'm wondering what could have been if I had stayed with that group, my impression is, even using some good draft tactics, that I would not have had as much on the climb. I don't remember actually how far ahead the first group finished than we did. That'll be interesting to realize when we get to the end here and look at the stats on Zwift Power. But at this point, I'm thinking about recovering, staying with this group. See a momentary pause off the pedals there, just on the downhill, and just settling into this relatively small group at this point, and back to the back and drafting, and see how this group goes and how much I have left for the climb. So here we're in a group of about 11 riders. You can see me there. Look behind us to see the group of riders coming up behind. Right now just made up of 3 riders, but another group behind them that are pushing kind of hard. I'm feeling okay at this point, okay with the decisions I've made, still staying in the back and getting some, what I assume is good draft. In real time, what I assumed was good draft, sticking to that tactic and keeping an eye on this group, keep an eye on the group coming up from behind, wondering whether or not, so you can see those 2 riders coming up now, wondering whether or not I'm going to push to stay with anyone that comes by, but I'm pretty sure I decide I'm just going to stay with the larger group and not follow 2 riders that come surging by. So I'm just keeping an eye on how the group is reacting to them and just getting geared up for the climb. 9.5 kilometers to go, 276 watt average after 45 minutes here. I assumed that this ride would take about an hour and 10 minutes, but that was based on what I think was a misunderstanding of someone else's finish time in this ride. So it ended up taking not as long as that, but with 45 minutes done and 9K to go, I realized that it wasn't going to take that long. So I knew I had a shorter ride by several minutes to do here. So that was a bit of a mental boost, knowing that I could push maybe a little more. I didn't have a target for the climb in terms of wattage. I was just going to see if I could stay with the group that I was with and basically make them my competitors for the race, and just see how the legs were feeling, see if I could mark any wheels and kind of stay with the front group up the final climb. Or not the front group, but the group that I'm in, the front of the group that I'm in. So here we go as we prepare to start the final volcano climb. 3.8 kilometers to go in a group of about 13 riders. I have a pack of riders behind us actually. And actually at this point I see in the rider list there, Don't Get Dropped Cycling, whose videos I've been watching on YouTube. So it was kind of funny to see them in the rider list. I had it in my mind that I would, if I could, try to just stay away from them for no other reason than I recognize them as a rider. Not really a great tactic. But anyway, here we go. As we start the climb, I see these two riders pushing off the front. So I'm just trying to mark the wheels, and I'm feeling relatively controlled. I know we just started, right? But at 360 to 390 watts climbing up right now, I didn't know what I would really have for this climb, but this little bit, and this is a relatively short climb, right? Like 7 to 8 minutes. I mean, closer to 8 minutes actually. So I knew kind of that I could, give it a little bit in the beginning. And I knew that, as you can see on the map there at the top center, that there's some flatter parts that give you a little bit of respite. So my goal here was just to finish this little orange section with this front group and then assess and through the flatter sections and see if I could see how I felt, if I could recover it all, what these riders were doing, and see if I could mark them up to basically the second half of the climb. It's at this point I noticed too that the mini map at the top right, which has been redesigned in terms of the green section for the route profile, basically the elevation. Generally, so it's green to show what you've completed, and then your little marker there, the white balloon with the red marker in it. To the right of that is black for what you have yet to complete. That is less useful for this climb. I would have liked to have seen a basically expanded view of the view that's in the top center. That's currently at 3.2% in the yellow. I would have liked, because it's hard to tell how much is left. I mean, obviously the distance is there, right? 2.4 kilometers, but that only helps because this ride actually ends at the top. So I was looking at that map and kind of lamenting the fact that it wasn't as useful as I would have hoped. But here we go on the flatter section, hoping to get a little bit of recovery here and get ready for basically the second half of this climb. Got 2K to go. Currently 172 beats a minute, 273 watt average, and 57 minutes. So I knew I had just a few minutes left as we see the profile come up here for the next effort. And I'm with the group here. So I'm basically just worried about what's in front and seeing whether or not what kind of effort I can put out on the end of this. I believe at this point I am in the big ring and 1 or 2 gears away from my hardest gear, I'm pretty sure. And feeling pretty good about where I am in terms of, again, the power I'm putting out. 370 watts right now, 396, 380. So I'm kind of happy that I'm able to put these watts out, and you can see the group stringing out a little bit here. I wasn't gonna I don't think I had it in me at this point to like try to surge to the front there. So I was just kind of, once I saw those wattage numbers and knew sort of how I've climbed this climb in the past. I mean, I must have done this climb dozens of times at least. I knew that this was a high average for me, and especially after 58 minutes of riding or racing, basically. I knew that I kind of, I was happy with where I was, and just getting ready to put in a nice, good effort to the end here. 1 kilometer to go, 1.1 kilometers to go, and feeling pretty good. So here we are in the last push here. 0.5 kilometer to go. Couple riders up front, a few riders behind. And I'm just ready to kind of give a little bit of a last effort here. Definitely feeling it. 180 beats a minute right now. And again, at that, 360, 380 watt range. And so I'm feeling pretty good at this point mentally with my ride, and I'm okay with whatever happened. I'm just ready to give a nice last push here up to the top. So here we go, final little push, crack the power up there, give it a little push. I don't know if I hold off the rider behind, I think I do, and there we go. Unlock the kit, and pretty good effort for me. I was happy to have done this. It was cold in there, actually was contemplating not doing it. So here we go, as we see 3.0 watts per kilogram at 280 watt average for the 1 hour and 1 minute and 31 seconds. That's a really good average there, and I think it speaks to, in terms of speaking to how beneficial the draft was. And as we see the Zwift power numbers here, and if you look at the wattage of the riders around me, you can see that I think again that those draft tactics really came in handy. So all in all, very happy with this ride. Glad to have gotten it done. If you all enjoyed this, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If so, give it a like, subscribe if you want to see the notifications and be aware of when I upload new videos. I appreciate you all watching. Stay fit, stay healthy, and I'll talk to you later.